Stand right here with me, it's like a waterfall of leaves. I'll push the moonlight through the trees and make your stay my sunshine. Sunshine. And ever since this world has been turning this way, you breathe a new hope in the day. You breathe a new hope in me. Sunshine. Good night, anger. Good night, heartache. Good night to the river you cry.
All right, Charlotte, what are we up to this morning?
We are taking our raft into the French Broad River. We're going to go to headwaters, and if they don't let us put in there, we're going to drive a mile up the road to go to Champion Park and put our raft in there.
What's the big goal here?
To do the French Broad River in sections.
Let's back up a second. At first, there was no grand plan to raft what's called the French Broad River Paddle Trail, a 147-mile stretch of river that begins in Rosman, North Carolina, passes through Asheville where we Torgersons live, and then goes all the way up to Rankin Access Area near Douglas Lake in Newport, Tennessee. This whole family adventure got started with a vague sense that my family and I were missing out on something by not being out on the water. Every time we traveled across a bridge, we looked down to the river to see if anyone was on it. It seemed like we couldn't go anywhere without seeing a kayak or canoe propped up on the roof of someone's car. Like a lot of adventures, one thing, one conversation led to the next. I bought a map called the River Keeper's Guide to the French Broad. Because I'm a storyteller who writes and makes films, I sought one of the guidebook's authors, a guy named Hartwell Carson, who has a job called being a river keeper.
River keepers are all under the umbrella of the Waterkeeper Alliance. So it's a global network of water keepers around the world. So bay keepers, sound keepers, river keepers, and I think there's almost 300 keepers now around the world.
So one reason I know I came across your name was the River Keeper's Guide to the French Broad. You know, I have that.
Cool.
Can you tell me how that came about?
A friend of mine and I paddled the French Broad all the way from Rosman to Knoxville, maybe 10 years ago. And it was kind of a work trip. I was new and didn't know the river well, so we were like, let's go see what's out there. We did some events along the way, and the trip garnered a lot of media attention. People were really interested in it. And a lot of people later came up to us and said, that sounds great. Like, I want to go do that trip too. And unfortunately, I had to tell them, you can't really do it. There's nowhere to publicly camp. There's no, the access is not great. So we kind of set out to build the paddle trail, which would allow people to do that. Take a night or 10 nights and paddle all the way to Douglas Lake. And once we did that, we realized we needed to tell people how to do it. So we created an app, we have a website, and then we have the waterproof paper guide to the French Broad River.
Hartwell works with a team of volunteers who test water in the river.
And the Ecology colonies form blue dots. The other bacteria leave little brown dots, but we count the blue dots. And 7 is the cutoff. If it's more than 7, it's considered closed.
Brevard College professor Jennifer Frick Rupert is a biologist.
Brevard College as a college, as an entity, we're only about 5 minutes from Pisgah National Forest. We're more like a half hour to 45 minutes from Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And both of these are areas that have been preserved because they have such a diversity of life present in them. So Great Smoky Mountains National Park is an international biosphere preserve that is on par with the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. But yet it's here where you can drive to it in half an hour and be out walking among this fantastic diversity of life.
Dr. Frick Rupert sent me up the road to the fish hatchery.
And we essentially produce about anywhere between about 550 to 600,000 fish a year here. And those fish are stocked into about 86 different bodies of water in western North Carolina in 16 western counties.
After my lessons in biology came one in geology.
that was so long ago that these mountains should actually just be eroded away. Like they should just be gone by now, and they're not. And so there are actually people that are proposing that the mountains have a more recent uplift history. Like they're younger than we think they are.
I heard about Yukon and Bean, a couple who'd done the very stretch of river we were thinking of doing ourselves.
I'm Nelson Stigall.
I'm Angie Matson-Stegall, and together we successfully rode 149 miles of the French Broad River over about 13 days, and we did this about the first 2 weeks of June.
I learned how a desire for an unobstructed view of the river is complicated.
Years from now, I imagine people saying, back in 2016, there used to be a lot of trees here. It used to be really beautiful, but now we have a cleared off mountain and lots of house sites.
Garrett Arts is the new director of RiverLink.
There were parks here and before the flood in 1916, and there was a strong community that was revolved around the river. And somewhere along the line, we thought that sacrificing places like that was just, part of business. We're just going to, take down a hillside to mine, or put all the polluting businesses here and just throw it in the river, and it'll be flow north into Tennessee for make it their problem.
Right.
So I think there's really something powerful about that we might have missed along the way.
A lot of people reached out to help my family and I along the way.
River people generally are very accommodating. They want to help. They want to see you have a good time.
When I first started learning about the river, one of the first things I did was to read this book called The French Broad by Wilma Dykeman. To begin our journey, let's hear a few of my favorite lines from that book. I'm going out to hear the slow talk of some stranger becoming friend as I listen to his life, to see the wide sweep of the river's silent power around a certain bend beneath the sycamores. I'm going out to smell fresh rain on summer dust and the prehistoric water odors of the old French Broad in flood. Won't you come too?
So thanks for talking to me. Could you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm David Whitmire. This is my wife, Debbie. We're owners of Headwaters Outfitters. Our families have been here since the 1820s.
Well, your mile zero is right here. So we're looking at mile zero. So this is the North Fork of the French Broad, beginning right under Devil's Courthouse, right up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So it is pretty clean, pretty pristine water coming down out of these mountains.
Our most dangerous thing we have on the river is not the river features itself. It's not the rapids that you're going to encounter. It's when these tall trees, just like the one that's right beside us, decides to fall across the river, and they don't give us a call when they do that. So if you encounter a tree, you may be the first one to encounter that. Since you guys are doing the whole sections, you will see a transformation of the river. At about 50 miles downstream, the river will go from about this width to very wide. So you don't have those tree dynamics once you get below the airport there in Asheville.
Our ineptitude will make the film more entertaining sometimes.
That was as smooth as we've ever
That's
done.
right. We bought this little box. We're putting our keys and our whistle for all the bears that are going to come after us when they jump in the water. Are snakes afraid of whistles?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't think they are. Do they have ears? All right, we're off, everybody.
We're off. We're off. Yeah.
Mile zero.
Mile zero.
There's a bridge and a fork over there.
How long are we going?
We think you got a watch. You don't, do you, Megan?
I do. You want me to set my timer?
I got it. It's 10:02. We think we got maybe 5 hours on the river. You think we'll make it by dark if we keep stopping this much?
No, and we might run out of air.
Look how flat our push on it, Charlotte.
It completely sunk since we got in the boat.
Megan, what are we looking at?
A death noodle.
A death noodle. You see that snake, everybody?
It's highly poisonous.
Bill and Izzy have left us.
What's wrong?
Bring the boat! Chill out.
And on the river, 4 hours, 24 minutes, and 3 seconds. We thought we would be done by now. Yes.
We thought it would take it.
Here we sit.
Everybody ready to raft to Newport, Tennessee? Oh, what just happened?
My mom is very cranky. She has yelled at each person in our family numerous times.
I'm not cursed at anyone.
I said yelled.
You said cursed.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
We are at a campground that we are videoing.
Headwaters Campground.
Yes, Headwaters Campground.
What happened exciting on the dismount of the boat?
My mom tripped on a sandbag that was in the water before we pulled our boat up on the shore, and she fell in butt first.
I'm gonna what?
Trout in her pants. Izzy said it'd be funny if she got a trout in her pants. Floppity flop flop.
What's all the excitement about?
We see a ring.
How much farther?
Like 2 miles.
8 down, 2 to go.
No, 9 down.
9 down, 2 to go.
All right, I'm Josh Ham. I actually don't live here. My folks live right up the hill here. And we're spending the afternoon clearing out some of the snags up there, which you may have seen as you pass by.
You saw your saw in the log.
That's right. We left the saw on the log because it was binding up when my dad just went up the hill to get some wedges and stuff to unbind it a little bit. And now we just noticed that, yes, as you can see.
So you help take care of this part of the river some, huh? Whatever you can do to help.
Informally.
Well, we made it under the hole.
The French Broad River. We are nearing the end of our
Day 1 journey.
Yep, day 1 journey. How long did it take us, Mom?
What's our time, Mama?
6 hours and 54 minutes and 2 seconds, but we're not there yet.
6:54 for 11 miles.
Unloading their big, heavy...
I am Torg, a Viking. We got a dirty, deflated raft. We've got a leak on the side. You hear it, girls?
Yeah.
And the handle fell off the back. This is what you get when you buy a used raft, I think. So hopefully we can get those things fixed up.
I spent $600 for our used raft, and my attempt at a repair was a failure. I've been sending out messages looking for all sorts of partners, and just when I thought we would encounter a serious delay on our trip, I received the following message from a South Carolina-based company called Star Inflatables. I'm in. I think being the only manufacturer based in the Southeast, it makes sense to use a Star in your production. I like to support locally. I have a 13-foot self-bailer that you can demo, available now.
Thank you, Star Inflatables!
You guys see any snakes up there? All clear? No snakes today.
Look at all of the cows up there. Hi! Hi!
Oh.
What's up?
Cows are big.
Cows are big.
Cows have big hiney.
You guys have butts like
All right, Charlotte.
hippopotamuses.
Now, if we have a farm where, say, the cattle are getting in the creek and they're causing water quality problems, we're definitely, not anti-farm, and we're happy to work with any farmers that want to work with us to make improvements. So, to try and get fencing in, to try and coordinate them with the county, and maybe get them some funding to improve, improve water quality through those measures.
So I could be wrong, Megan. It seemed like you were even more nervous this time than last time.
Yeah.
What happened?
She thought she saw a snake.
I don't know, I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified of what I can't see.
So the water was deeper and murkier, and last time it was a couple inches deep and you could see what was going on?
Yeah, and it's been building. My anxiety's been building.
What are the chances that you'll make it to the end, would you say?
I mean, there was a time today where I thought, I was holding back tears, and I thought if I ever get off here, I don't think I can do this again.
And then what do you feel now?
Well, I mean, we made it. I don't know, like I feel relief, but then my anxiety will build until Sunday, or not, yes, Sunday.
So Megan, river cleanup tomorrow, you're going to take it off, you think?
Yes.
Why is that?
I mean, I'm visualizing what will happen. I think people are going to be in the water doing stuff, and I'm just going to sit in a boat.
Yeah. All right, so maybe we'll see you again, maybe we won't on the river, right?
Right.
So I'm Hartwell. I'm the French Broad River Keeper with Mountain Shrew. Today we're going to pick up trash, which is always fun and easy to do.
Man, I'm glad I didn't cheap out of the prescription use. Hartwell, can you tell me about the railroad real quick?
The railroad we have found right above us dumping a good bit of like railroad debris, big metal plates, big metal pins, and we've picked them up out of the river before, but unfortunately the railroad won't do anything about it. It's illegal to recycle them, and it's illegal to actually even have them in your possession. So we've kind of been at a loss to what to do about pollution just upstream of us, which is a bunch of big metal, plates and stuff that would be great to recycle, but currently we haven't been able to get that done. We have made a lot of trash pickups so far. Seems like Steel Reserve so far is the number 140 on the Swannanoa River. Mad Dog is often a leader on the French Broad, but I think you have a little more discerning taste up here in Biltmore Village for 40s. And we determined that McDonald's is more popular than Hardee's by a 2-to-1 margin, at least by people who throw their trash under the bridge.
That looks like somebody who's going after the trash prize.
Somebody's got to win it, right? I might need to get my tetanus.
Yeah.
I've done this before. You come out, everybody's like boozing and tubing. Yeah. And you pop out, and you're like filled with trash, and everybody's looking at you real weird.
What are they doing?
Bulldozing by the way.
Yeah.
The trash will get put by the road, and then we'll call the Department of Transportation, and they'll come pick up. These are special DOT bags, and they'll pick them up and haul them away.
Yeah,
It is so
Yeah, thanks everybody. That's a solid day of work. We saved some lives, we saved some trash. Turtles, humans.
Oh, you saw that turtle too?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thanks for letting me film, guys. Well done, everybody.
Put that on my resume.
That's right, cinematography.
So get in the boat, try not to get the things dirty, said the guy who got them dirty last night.
1, 2, 3. Blast off! Remember your feet. Sean, paddle that way.
Update on facing your fears, how it's going?
I'm doing really good at holding it in.
So you feel the same?
No, I feel okay.
Why do you think?
I've been telling myself to feel okay. Because I want to finish.
Yeah.
It's 60 years. Ha! GoPro!
Funny, they're cold.
I'm under the boat! Help!
Thanks to Dean and Pawpaw for dropping us off.
No problem. Glad to help out.
Bill, do you mind telling us how far we're going today and what are some of the highlights you can remember?
It's like 19 miles, and that's as far as we've gone by 8 miles, which is a lot, so I think less than 8 hours would be a good time.
Megan, I understand you are afraid of snakes and other creatures that live in water. How do you think your fear of that has gotten better or worse, and why? Or how?
First of all, I think it's hilarious that you call me Megan whenever you're recording. I think it has gotten better, mainly because I realized that there aren't hundreds of thousands of snakes waiting to attack me.
And the storm clouds are dark.
And look at me.
And there's Iz, just chilling on the side of the boat.
And I want to get in.
It's raining.
It's sure raining.
There's Mama.
I'm videoing. Everybody say hi.
Okay, I need a paddle
Girl just jumped out of the boat.
to get a duck.
Oh,
sorry.
gosh.
And Mom at the same time.
And it's on the GoPro.
Okay, I need to be on this side.
Decapitated by Isabel.
Let me see. Dad, we need to get that way.
You're all right. Charlotte, say I'm okay. Dave has lots of awesome stuff up there to do.
When I bought this property, we're at 521 Amboy Road. We're right here along the French Broad River. This was, in my mind, the gateway to the river park greenways. And that was long before there were any river parks or greenway trails. And so I continue to refer to this space as the gateway it's to the River Arts District, which is just downstream of us. It's to the numerous breweries that are in the area. It's to the paddling opportunities. It's to those that are running, walking, enjoying the riverfront. Right. So back to the vision, back to the idea. When I first acquired the property, there was nothing here. If we were to pan out, we'd see the building, the pavilions, the towers, the structures. None of that was here. The one structure that was here was the building with no side sheds or roof lines or anything else. The other thing that wasn't here were trees. So
wow.
Every tree, every plant, every piece of landscape was put in by me because I felt that that was important to encompass how the paddle sport community would see the property in 20 years. Years ago, we would see rainfall 4 to 6 inches and look at the graph, and the CFS measurement would bump up just a little bit. Because what was happening upstream was the rain was being absorbed and taken in by the lands. Now, because of development, and that's just that's progress, that's part of it.
You're not necessarily cursing all development.
I'm not necessarily cursing all of the moments that people have found why Asheville's so beautiful have come to live here.
Right.
Whether it be schools, restaurants, parking lots for car dealerships, other businesses, all of those as development has been created close to the river or even off of the fringe of the actual riverfront, we now see a more rapid rise in river CFS because it rains, it hits the rooftops, it hits the impervious surface, it then moves to the creek, to the stream, to the French Broad River.
We're at mile 75 of 149. It looks like there might be something in the river down there. What is that out there?
A dam.
What are we gonna do?
We're going to get out right over there, and then we'll probably walk around and go over the dam.
We hope.
We hope.
As we began to make plans to portage the dam at mile 76 north of Asheville, Megan came across this announcement from a Western North Carolina organization called RiverLink. Get your creative caps on, put together a team, and build your yacht for the Anything That Floats parade. We decided it was worth putting off a day of our trip to experience this unique parade and learn more about RiverLink's work.
Hi, I'm Lee Seabrook, and I'm a volunteer for RiverLink. We're having Anything That Floats this weekend. It starts today at the Hominy Creek River Park, and it's floating down to the sculpture park, the RiverLink sculpture park.
Daryl and Tammy Casper, we're from Asheville. This is my friend Gina Christopherson
From Salisbury, North Carolina.
and Buddy Baxter, our neighbor.
From Asheville.
Well, she started out to be Croc of the Nile. So then we decided we'd make a play on words. So now she's Croc of Denial because of all the coal ash spills and problems that we've had recently.
Yeah, so Duke Energy is the largest utility in the United States, and they dug holes in the ground and put all their waste in there. And that waste is from burning coal. That leaves coal ash behind, which has a slew of toxic heavy metals, arsenic and chromium, and really nasty stuff that you don't want in your groundwater and you don't want in your waterways. Years ago, probably 7 years ago, we started to raise the alarm that this was an issue. We went out and monitored the French Broad here and found illegal discharges from the coal ash ponds. There was ample groundwater contamination. We pushed Duke Energy to do something about that, and we pushed the state to do something about that, but no one would respond. So we partnered with the Southern Environmental Law Center, which, they have the power of the law behind them. The Clean Water Act says it's illegal to discharge pollutants to waterways without a permit, and Duke was clearly doing that. Some sites were written into the act as high priority sites, like Asheville, because we were suing over them. And other sites said we would study them and determine if they're low, intermediate, or high hazard sites. Intermediate and high hazard would be cleaned up. Low priority sites, they basically throw a tarp over it and call it good, which in our opinion is not sufficient because this stuff is still sitting in the groundwater. They would dry it out, so that is a good step, but still not sufficient. And they studied it and they determined we were right, that these were polluting groundwater and they should be cleaned up. And unfortunately, Duke Energy didn't like the answer. So they went to the state, and they have a lot of power in the state legislature, and they, kowtowed to their wishes and passed a law that basically overrode the law that they had already passed, making them clean it up. So it basically says they have to provide drinking water to people, which is a good step, but then they all get ranked as low priority. So they provide drinking water to people, but they don't ever clean it up.
Fun and making a statement. And we'll see you out on the water.
Yay!
Alrighty. The old box out here.
That old Martin box.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is called So It Goes.
This dark tilled earth is my only creed. Such a sight in front of me. Answers await the man who sows the seed. Crow's feet smiling at the sun. The cooking and the canning have all been done. Blessed be to God above. The harvest he made a prosperous one. Mule and bridle, plow to dirt. These hands have seen no other work. Prayer and sweat coax a work of art from the ground. Hold up, so it goes. So it goes, so it goes, from head to heart. So it goes, and so it goes, so it goes, from head to heart.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See, look, all we gotta do is cross that river. Easy peasy.
Is it shallow, you think?
No, I think it's probably pretty deep. I'm excited to see that the water is super flat.
It's making for a lot of rowing, but we're glad to row and not deal with the current. When we got out the other day, the current was much stronger.
Charlotte, you might want to film this danger dam sign.
We're not gonna make it.
So we went under the danger wire. We pulled out at that little grassy area. Now we're going to go look to see where we put in. We're thinking the raft's going to be kind of heavy.
Is get it out of our way, honey.
Izzy, what are you carrying?
A giant cooler.
How many pounds do you think it weighs? 300, folks.
I hope it just slides right into that little hole there.
Hey Bill, how's it going?
It's been slow. There's lots of rocks.
You've had to get out a lot, right?
Had to get out a lot, and doing a lot of what I'm doing now, which is pushing the boat over rocks.
Bill, Izzy, and Charlotte are going to check because we don't know, should we go on the left of this island or the right of this island?
Well, it's possible that that's the way. I hope it's not the way. There is a little bit of water flowing in the middle.
It is the way.
So we got in at 8:30. It's almost 10 o'clock. Hour and a half. I can still see the dam. I don't know if you can.
Here comes Poop Chute.
Well, Poop Chute gets its name from there at that dam is where the waste treatment plant is,
Right.
and they had that big canal that runs out, and that's the wastewater, the treated wastewater, we hope, gets dumped back into the river there, and that's what creates Poop Chute
That's
Rapid.
right. That was what I thought.
Yeah.
Right. So it
And
does.
it's a very nice rapid.
Yeah.
It's
really
It's
fun.
a nice little.
Yeah.
It does sometimes smell around there. I guess treated wastewater also smells.
I guess so.
I guess.
That's what we'll tell
So
ourselves.
we try not to think about really.
Our toenails did turn brown, so we called our toenail color the French Broad Brown for the whole trip.
Yeah.
Oh, we have like no control right here.
I know.
I do. Switch, girl, switch. Switch.
What is the fire drill?
Go, Charlotte, go!
Fire drill! It's gonna be fun! Hold on to me! Hold on to me! Camera! It's okay! Don't be stuck! Holy cow!
Oh gosh!
What did we do is?
We just went through that. It was so fun. I was kind of a little bit afraid to flip over, but it was awesome.
How's it going, Megan?
Look at me.
It's going. It's okay.
It's tiring.
It's tiring. Yeah.
Pretty intense.
The rocks that we were just on over there in the shear zone basically project all the way down there into the river. You can kind of see some of the rapids right here, and those are the rocks that are making the rapids. So we can go down there and I can show you the rocks and you can kind of see how they're forming the rapids.
I mean, is there a variety of rock out there? Is there one kind of dominant rock? What?
So through the French Broad River through western North Carolina is mostly in things that are called schists and gneisses, which are they're metamorphic rocks, and they're pretty high-grade metamorphic rocks. What that means is they used to be deep in the crust where there was a lot of heat and pressure. But since then there's been a lot of erosion that's removed all the upper parts of the crust here, so we're seeing the deep, the bottom of the old Pangea Mountains, basically.
The thing that gets said a lot is that the French Broad River is the third oldest river in the
Right.
world.
I've heard that too.
And the thing that gets said a lot by people who seem to know a little bit more is there's no way you can really prove that.
As far as structural geologist, which is what I am, I study rock deformation. The talk in Appalachian geology as far as the French Broad River is that we think it's old because it's carving it's carving through the mountains in like a meander. Now meanders form when the topography is flat. We have meanders in the mountains, and so people will argue that means the river predates the mountains.
That's right.
Well, you know, the part about it that's a little bit under question right now is that, you know, the age of these mountains, like we're starting to reevaluate that. That was so long ago that these mountains should actually just be eroded away. Like they should just be gone by now, and they're not. And so there are actually people that are proposing that the mountains have a more recent uplift history. Like they're younger than we think they are.
It used to be a little bit more accepted that the mountains were how old?
Like 250 to 300 million years old.
And now the speculation is that there's a more recent uplift.
Yeah.
And that speculation comes from where?
The speculation is because, like, for example, the French Broad flows from basically the east side of the Blue Ridge over the Blue Ridge Mountains over into Tennessee. Now that seems weird. Many of our rivers flow over the French Broad and not away, or sorry, over the Blue Ridge and not away from the Blue Ridge.
And when it comes to the river predating the mountains, from your vantage, that seems quite possible.
Well, it seems more possible to me if the mountains are younger than we think they are. But again, I don't really know how old rivers can be, but thinking about a 400 million year old river sounds hard for me. Like the landscape's changed so far between then and now, it's just hard for me to wrap my mind around that.
Tomorrow we were going to do, I forget, 14 miles, 2 dams, and the Section 9 by herself. You don't like that idea anymore.
I don't think we should do Section 9 by ourselves. I think it's too dangerous. Because we don't know what we saw today, you don't really know where to go. Whenever the rapids are up ahead, you don't know which direction to go.
Except for experienced people like Dad.
Well, we're in Marshall, trying to figure out how to get around the dam.
Ooh, I might like the Marshall jump shot.
Capitola hydroelectric plant. Safety hazards prohibit visiting this site anytime. Blah, 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 keep out. So other people skip the 2 dams. We're starting to understand why. There it is. It's a big one. So you can get out before the dam. You can't probably tell how high that is from here, but it's, I mean, if you look at Megan, that's pretty much straight up. So the boat would have to go down there and around the corner. There's the tracks. We saw trains on these tracks today. Long walk to the other side of the dam. Way down there. We're gonna go see if we can see it. So what I would do, and I don't know the best way, but if I was by myself in a kayak I could carry, I would get out way down there before the dam here in Marshall, and I would walk down Main Street over that bridge, and you're in this park. And we could even get our raft in here. Megan and I aren't going to do that. We could get a portage around the bridge and drag the raft in here. But then we would be stuck at the Redmond Dam with that long walk of a quarter mile, which we're not going to do. And there's no way to get picked up on that. Pisgah Center for Wildlife Education, Bobby N. Setzer Fish Hatchery.
In 2008, that these fish are worth about $187 million to the local economies of Western North Carolina. Meaning people coming in and spending the night lodging, eating, gas, hiring an outfitter, buying tackle, fishing licenses, all that combined. So, and this is where all the fish essentially come out from inside the building at about 3-4 inches and are then raised to anywhere from 10 inches up to 20 inches. And we have 9 employees here, and what we do is we take a sample count and we know how many fish need to go to what body of water, so we get a number per pound of fish. We load so much weight onto a truck, and we do it all right now with our mussels and nets and scales. And last year we did about 365,000 pounds worth of production. So do the math, there's 9 of us. Each of us has to lift quite a bit of weight. You know, that's our brown trout brood stock. We have them separated by male and female. And here come the end of October, we will be stripping eggs from the females, using milk from males to essentially fertilize those eggs, and essentially taking enough eggs to provide us with our fish for the next 2 years.
My name is Rob Michael. I'm from Greer, South Carolina. I'm here on the East Fork River today. I was telling this fella down here, normally I spend 10 or 15 minutes in each hole. But when it's crowded like today, you find a good fishing hole and you keep it. In this particular case, because the water is really shallow, what he's doing is he's fishing upstream because the fish can't see over their shoulder. You have to be willing to just appreciate being in the water and appreciate the weather and appreciate your surroundings. And you know, today it's a beautiful day. You have the sun and the color of the leaves and the sound of the water. And if you catch fish, it's gravy. And if you kind of approach it in that you're just looking for the beauty and the aesthetic of it, and fishing is an excuse to appreciate all that, I find that most fly fishermen have a similar attitude.
It's 9 o'clock. There's the Redmond Dam off of Little Pine Road, heading toward Bernard, where our car waits. We deflated the raft today and then pumped it up here. Everybody have a good trip?
Woo! Yes. Well, it's good for the Tiger one.
At what point would you say to me, Megan, okay, we're close enough to this bird? Never?
You are very pretty. We're getting a little close. 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 We're getting a little close.
Don't worry, Mom.
I wouldn't, don't make too much of a threatening, not that I know. Go ahead and say that real quick. What's your name and what's your shuttle?
I'm Bill Holcomb. I run Wild Bill Shuttle Service in Hot Springs for most sections of French Broad River and on the Appalachian Trail.
How do people find you? You got a phone number? Or
I got a phone number. It's 828-712-8083. You call Wild Bill Shuttle
Now, the
Service.
shuttle ride's not wild, you're just wild.
Well, it's a Class 5 ride.
Good to meet you, Wild Bill.
My pleasure.
Just real quick, maybe introduce yourself and what are you up to today?
So my name is Jamie and I'm with Bellyac. We're a lay-on-top kayak out of Asheville, North Carolina. So we're taking a few people down today. They've been out a couple times and they're just learning more about the
I've never seen a Bellyac. A little bit of a drag today. We got home last night about 7:30 p.m. Got up this morning about 6:30, drove 85 miles to the takeout, 15 more to the put-in, we'll raft, and then we'll come back 15 miles here again, and then 85 miles home. So had to really want to do the whole French Broad River today, saving the rapids and Cherokee Forest because we're a little bit intimidated by it, and because my sister's coming, I think she'll be helpful, and I think she'll enjoy that the most on the river.
Isabel, why are we going to the right? In Charlotte.
Because we lost the Barbie boat and we're going to get it. How do you do that?
Boy, how did it make it around this curve?
How are we going to find it?
I don't know if we're
Get
going to...
over! No! Oh! Oh!
A little teeny snake.
It was coming though.
It's coming back.
No. Okay, Charlotte, stop it.
Wait, leave it.
Oh, don't let it climb up the boat.
It's not going to climb in the boat.
Oh,
It's stripy.
oh, these are highly poisonous.
That snake was not a foot long.
Oh, that GoPro's on.
I thought you were performing.
I was going for an Oscar there. That's what was happening.
So, spirits are low. Megan's spirits aren't that low.
Hey.
The kids are bored. It's been a slow day. If we don't paddle, we don't move. Didn't happen. Isabel, why are you mad at us?
Because you said I could get in, you didn't let me.
We didn't let Isabel get in. We thought the water looked pretty. The river keeper says, if the river's muddy, don't get in.
Basically, my rule of thumb is, if the river's super muddy, I don't go swimming in it. If it's clear, it's great. It'll be clean and nice. And we find, like most of our sites, we monitor bacteria throughout the watershed and post those to a website called the Swim Guide. And most of our sites are clean, 70 to 80% of the time. So that's a pretty good success story, I would say. But we'd certainly love them to be clean 100% of the time.
I got in touch with 2 of the volunteers that work with Hartwell, and they agreed to let me tag along. Jeff tests water near Pisgah, North Carolina, while Brother Hug samples Hominy Creek in Asheville.
I'm Brother Hug. I've been doing water testing for Mountain True now for 3 years, testing down at the beach here at Hominy Creek.
Well, I met the riverkeeper on a staking one time, and I wanted to be involved. And yeah, I take my own daughter down the river, so I wanted to be able to test it to make sure, it's safe.
To what degree do the results of your water tests fluctuate?
Not a lot. Mostly in the summertime it flunks.
And then do you
the
have...
fluctuation, if it rains, if it's been raining, it almost always flunks. And I found that if the water is muddy, it's going to flunk.
You were telling me before we turned the camera on, you're a little conflicted. You kind of know why it flunks, but there's some other sides to that.
Definite conflict. Hominy Creek, the headwaters for Hominy Creek run through agricultural, a lot of cattle farms. There's a lot of, Hominy Valley is a big, broad agricultural valley. And all those little streams that run through the farms feed into the creek. And the cows get in the streams and and the manure runs into the creek. Legally, the cows aren't supposed to get in the creek. But ever since they started farming up there, cows have been in the creek. That's the way it's been done.
And then all you do is come out here and fill up right to that line.
So the last person I talked to, they sort of had it down to, and they might not be quite right on this, if there were less than 7...
7 is the break point of how many colonies. What happens when we do these in Petri dishes, we'll do 3 Petri dishes, and the E. coli colonies form blue dots. The other bacteria leave little brown dots, but we count the blue dots. And 7 is the cutoff. If it's more than 7, it's considered closed.
Ta-da! If I wasn't holding the camera, I would clap for Jeff. Finished, right?
Finished, this part.
Up next is what?
I take it back home and put it in the Petri dishes.
And all we do is pour it in.
So now they sit for an hour and a half, put them in here, and they sit for 36 to 40 hours, and then we pull them out and count them.
We'll be back to see what the count is.
That'd be good.
So we're back. There's the Petri dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
colonies.
This is going to be way more simple than I thought. So
now this is the blue is E. coli. So the reds and the purples are not. So you got to make sure just the blue, and usually the blue shows up pretty big.
So already it looks like the water was in great shape.
Oh yeah. So far I only see one because those all look red to me. I don't even see one in here. That looks red to me.
The count today was 9,100, which is extremely high. But our highest count we had was actually on July 12th. We had 25,700.
Do you remember any circumstances that caused that? Maybe another big rain?
It was the same. It was the same thing. The week before that had been a very low number. It had been dry for a little while, and then we had a heavy rain. We had I think that week we had probably about 2 to 3 inches of rain the weekend before. So it washed a lot of manure off the banks. Having paddled through the farm and seeing at least 30 places along the creek where the cows come down and hang out at the creek, it was, when Hartwell and I paddled through, it was extremely gross. It stunk. Mm-hmm. You could just see the manure all along the sides of the bank. So I think that's probably the major cause. These are the counts so far this year.
This is the number
That's the number, actual count of the colonies counted.
So we got the date on the left, and there's a few safe readings, right?
We've not had a safe reading during the Memorial Day to Labor Day season at all.
And you write, so you're gonna write down whatever that number
I'll
was?
write down was that 217.
217 for
926.
All right, Brother Hug, thanks for showing us how that works.
Certainly.
Ew, look at that cow peeing in the water. Ew, that's why I don't like my kids to swim in the water.
That's why we don't want.
Hi.
Swing your tail.
Look at the baby.
Look at his tail.
Well, I think he may be going to poop too. That'd be something to catch. Guys, you're not supposed to be in the water, but I know it feels good.
So we're at Blue Heron, the most rapids we'll see during the whole river. It's been a source of worry for Megan. No sleeping.
Surprising.
So Megan, how are you feeling today about the rapids?
Good, since we're going to have Sandy as our guide.
My name is Sandy Melton, and I am a river guide on the French Broad River in Madison County. And I am a partner in a business, Blue Heron Whitewater.
So I'm interested to see what it looks like, and if we've got 3 rapids to do after today, can we do them? So I'm a little bit interested in how the rapids look.
We have more than 3 left to do after
Should Anna
today.
introduce herself?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I'm Ann Torgerson, filmmaker's sister. I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm here to visit, and so I've incorporated this trip into my trip. And it should be exciting with the rapids and everything. I've always wanted to do it, so I'm not nervous at all. 0.
What are the odds that you'll do it?
She does jump out of airplanes, though. She's not nervous.
What are the odds that you'll do it tomorrow?
They're pretty good. I think they're pretty good.
Team Torg, right? That's you. Hi, Mom. Okay, cool. So Team Torg, you guys are going to be with Sandy. All right, you guys already met Sandy, I think.
Are you Lee? Bill Torgerson. I was going to get you coming off the bus. Never mind. So, Lee, what makes you the kind of guy who's willing to come out and film some strangers?
I'm an extrovert, and I like whitewater and paddling in rivers. So I guess that would qualify me for the job.
Bill? Hi, Lee. Thanks for coming to join us today.
Okay, everybody wave.
We're hoping to learn some paddling techniques.
Yeah, it's a team participation sport for sure. And when several people, most people don't like the boat being sideways. And on this river, if we went straight down the middle of the river, we would get stuck a lot and we would miss every wave. So we do a lot of zigzagging to stay on the deepest channels and just find the most fun and avoid the hazards. So if everybody's trying to steer, it doesn't work out nearly as well as if people are paddling well and together and then having one person kind of determine the route.
See the rock on the right? That's called Otter Rock because we otter get left of it. But that just goes to show that we don't always go straight down river.
Watch your elbows. This is the wide part of the narrow part, just so you know. So far, so good. Now, everybody go forward. Steady forward. Okay, now everybody lean to the right. It's gonna be a little bumpy. Oh yeah, we got this. Woo! Let's do the paddle high five. Yeah! Let's see the next boat come through. Here they come. Okay, who made it? Yeah, they got it.
Okay, the trip has negotiated 3 kind of small to medium rapids, and they're now pulled over at a place called Jump Rock. Okay, there goes Bill. This looks like Izzy is next. Oh, go Izzy. And this looks like Charlotte. Okay, all 3 of them in the water and swimming toward us. And we have a videographer here. A second one.
Awesome, there's the turtle. Say hi to the turtle.
Hi, turtle.
And then out in the middle of the river, that great big rock is a high water mark. See all of the debris on top?
Yeah.
The beauty of this, these are riparian buffers that are still intact.
We need buffers along stream banks. I know that's controversial, but it is absolutely important. And that's for several reasons. What a buffer along a stream bank, a buffer means a strip of vegetation along the stream bank that is not disturbed. That's providing shade to keep the water cool. It's providing plant, it's strengthening the bank to prevent the bank from eroding in. Erosion is what's providing sediment. The wider the strip, then the more opportunity there is to catch sediment that's running off the land before it ever gets into the stream. Just the physical action of grass blades are going to catch the sediment before it ever gets to the stream. And it also catches one of the other pollutants that we have around here are nutrients. We don't have a lot of algae growing in our water because it has a very low nutrient level, and that's normal and good. When you get too much nutrient, fertilizer, even pollution runoff, that's going to cause algae growth, and the algae will clog up the stream again. As it dies, it also uses up oxygen. So it's all tied together. Sediment, oxygen, algae growth, nutrients, all those things play into each other.
And is that controversial because someone says, I own this land, I want to sit here on the edge of the bank, I don't want this shrubbery or rhododendron?
I want to cut it as, I don't want rhododendrons there, I want it grassy right down to the edge.
I want manicured grass right on the edge.
Or I'm a farmer, and the closer, I want to plow my land up to the edge because every foot I grow more soybeans on, the more I'm going to make from that land.
And then do we just have to hope for that the farmer or the homeowner decides they care about the earth, or is there a reason that they should care? Is it because their own bank is eroding? Would that be a reason to get them to care about it?
Their own bank is eroding, and what people are doing upstream of them affects them. So they don't think about what they're doing to people who are downstream of them, but we all live downstream.
We're going on for our lunch spot. We might have lunch at Frank Bell's.
Okay.
So y'all look over there on the right. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's that branch that hangs down. If we skirt it a little to the right, we'll kind of bump a rock on the right. But it's kind of hard to do both. You ready to duck?
See the duckies.
Lean forward really far, really far, really far. Okay, now get up. Woo! Oh, that was awesome. Nicely done. What's that called? That's called pit stop.
Pit stop.
So when y'all look downstream, you see the horizon line with a few little waves kind of dancing up. That's where the rapid starts. There are a couple of features I have to tell you about. One, if we go over a really big wave and we hit the backwash of the wave and we are all kind of like in the bottom of the boat and our boat doesn't have a lot of momentum, well, we may not have enough power, oomph, to get over the wave. It could push us back down into the depression and fill us up from all sides. And if I'm still in the raft at that time, I'll be encouraging you to get to the high side. The low side is where people swim out of, and the high side is and the boat could spin around, so the high side could change. If we go too far left, it's very possible that our whole boat could flip. So we definitely don't want to go too far left. And then the last thing I have to tell you is there is a feature of this rapid that we fondly call the deep swim. And anyone who's done the deep swim in the past, they say a couple things in common. One, it gets really dark and quiet down there, and then when they start counting, like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, kind of the average length of time somebody's actually underwater is about 4 seconds. So if you do fall out and don't get right back in and do the deep swim, just don't panic. Isn't this awesome, y'all?
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, all forward. Go. Go. Right side, back down a little. Stop. 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 All forward. Forward. Open. Go. 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 Hit it hard. Hit it hard. Woo! Oh! That's moving. Wow. Right side back. Left forward. Right side back paddle. Beautiful, y'all. Stop. Look around at the raft and now.
Wow.
Woo!
We have the raft approaching Surprise Ledge. And as you look at all the water above the ledge, it's pretty flat. And now you've got this big drop down here.
But this is a surprise!
Surprise!
Yeah, wave it!
And a successful negotiation.
Oh wow, that looks awesome.
The wave doesn't show up. It's below the level of the pool. The trail is about eye level to us. See it through there? Yeah.
So those people we saw back there, that's what they could have been doing.
They were on the trail,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think we've walked this.
Oh,
we
yeah.
walked up to the top of the...
And there's a loop, like
yeah,
a mile
we've
and a
done
half
that
loop
before.
on Lover's Leap.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we hiked up there.
Right.
Well, okay, well look at it from Lover's Leap from this side. So that's Lover's Leap is the first rock bluff, and then the trail that you did goes up over, and you just have to do a little spur, trail out to look at that upper bluff. Well, if you do put in above the bridge, just don't hit the bridge. That is a very big hazard, and your boat will wrap around it and fill up with water, and it's called a pin.
Thanks, Lee. So, you think the first one on the left, maybe?
Yeah.
Where we went yesterday?
That was very smooth.
Very smooth. Keep digging. Throw, Dan. We're good. I'm spinning. Oh, we're not good. That's right. Hold still, Ann. I'm getting out.
Breaking the #1 rule.
What's that?
I think you're breaking the #1 rule.
What's that?
Stand up and rafting.
Ann got it.
Here it is.
Together, Ann and Megan. There you go. Well, those are cool. On the right?
Look at the rock.
To our right on the river is what's known as Paint Rock. This historical marker explains pictographs on cliff face were created by Indians circa 2500 BC and have long been landmark for travelers. The cliffs can be reached via River Road from Hot Springs or, like we did, from the water. On the Riverkeeper's map, the cliffs were called Chimney Rocks. We needed to look for the graffiti.
I don't know. I felt like the bottom had graffiti on it. I don't see any drawings on those.
Oh, there's the graffiti. There's graffiti at the bottom. Oh, yeah.
Can you see the rocks, Iz? Iz, get back. I'm trying to film them.
Yeah, I can see them.
Pretty spot, right, Iz?
Yeah.
To see the paint on the rock, we had to walk along the cliffs on River Road. These markings I found are explained on hotspringsinc.org as consisting of alternating red and yellow rectilinear lines that are painted against a vertical cliff face. Testing has indicated that the petroglyphs were created during the Archaic period about 5,000 years ago.
How are you feeling, Megan? I feel like I'm ready to be done, but I'm having a great time with my family.
I feel the same.
You see him. Maybe he's not allowed to hold.
What happened, Megan?
The train halted us. Took 130 miles.
He was so nice. We waved and he waved and he went two, and then two, and then two.
That conductor should get a raise.
Last day of rafting, August 27th. It's a Saturday, 7:08. Both the put in and take out are right off of Highway 25, which is nice. Last day of driving. School starts on Monday. Megan, you think you'll ever go rafting again?
It'll be a while.
We think possibly the falls ahead. Not real sure.
Megan doesn't like the name.
Don't like the name. I wish it was like Happy, Sweet, Gentle, Rapid. The Falls.
Puppy Land.
Puppy Falls.
Rose, you nervous or no problem?
Nah.
Izzy, are you nervous?
There's a tank site.
A what?
Oh, this is that spot.
Jill and Charlotte and Isabel are scouting the rapid called the Falls.
So, looks like we come in from the side, and then we spin the boat to our right. Hopefully go right through there. Head out that way.
So Charlotte and Isabel are going to film Bill and I going through.
Oh, here come Mom and Dad. Down the falls. Looks like they gotta go through there. We got a little hole and down. Paddle on the right, guys. Or your left. You're going sideways.
Yeah, we did it.
It's been a hot day, 3 or 4 miles to go. Nice break on a river beach. Maybe some fun rapids coming up on the left.
Down accelerator we go. Looks like it could be accelerator. There's Izzy doing the GoPro. This is going to be a big drop up here. I don't know if you can tell on camera. Hold on to your butts, everyone. Here we go. I can't hold the GoPro still. That was so cool. I couldn't hold it still.
Oh, that's so
What's ahead? Last day.
Team Torgerson.
Hopefully nothing goes wrong in the last 400 yards. We didn't break the GoPro. We didn't pop the raft.
Yet.
We didn't go over any steep waterfalls.
Yes.
We didn't flip the boat.
Yeah.
Nothing did go wrong over the course of those last 400 yards. We paddled toward the access area under the Highway 25 bridge near Newport, Tennessee. My daughter Isabel captured the moment when our raft touched the bank, signifying our successful completion of the French Broad River paddle trail.
I know I have the GoPro on my head.
Oh gosh, Izzy.
Megan and I hauled the Blue Star Inflatables raft on loan up to the van for the final time. Driving home, I thought about all the time my family and I had shared on the water. I also thought about all the people we'd met, about how they'd inspired us to undertake the trip, and how they'd all helped us to understand the river in a new way.
But we do have a couple threats that we're going to have to kind of learn how to mitigate against. One being just the overall water temperature of the water that supplies our hatchery is getting warmer. And so as water temperatures warm, it might be a degree or two, but trout, being very sensitive to water temperature, struggle when it gets really warm.
But the river's not as clean as we'd like it to be. I mean, we definitely still have places that aren't safe to swim, and we have problems that happen with rain events. E. coli levels will spike. There's way too much sediment in the river, which a lot of people don't realize is actually our biggest pollution source.
Sediment is a problem because of the organisms that live here. So people come to Western North Carolina because they want to go trout fishing. The reason that trout occur in our streams is, number one, because the water is cold, and cold water can actually hold more oxygen than warm water can. So heat is a problem. If the water becomes warmer because we don't have hemlock trees, because rhododendrons have been cut back from the banks, and the water heats up, that's a negative. But sediment, as I said, number one pollutant, because what happens is as sediment gets into the streams, it directly clogs up the gills of the fish, but even more important is it clogs up all the crevices underneath the rocks in the river, And if you ever pick up a river rock and look underneath it, you'll see all these little insects scrambling on that surface. Those are trout food. They're mayflies, they're caddisflies, they're stoneflies. There are other kinds of insects too, but those are the big three that require clean, highly oxygenated water with space underneath those rocks to live. And the sediment clogs up that space so that you don't have all those different organisms living there. And if you don't have them, you don't have trout.
But despite those challenges, I am encouraged that the French Broad is as healthy as it has been for a long time.
And the river's gotten much, much healthier than it used to be. You know, prior to the Clean Water Act, Wilma Dykeman, the author of the book, The French Broad, she said the French Broad was too thick to drink and too thin to plow. And now, any given Saturday, there are thousands of people out using the river. And people are buying rafts to go float down the river, which really didn't happen a lot until really like 5 or 10 years ago. River recreation kind of exploded in Asheville.
Because our water's so much cleaner than it was when Wilma Dykeman was writing about our water. When she wrote her book about the French Broad, one of the chapters in there was called Who Killed the French Broad? And the French Broad was so polluted in the 1950s. What I find really interesting and hopeful about that is that when she was writing that book and the French Broad was so polluted that it couldn't support trout and it couldn't support river otters, there were only 22 point sources of discharge. By that, I mean a pipe. There were 22 pipes between Brevard and Asheville that were discharging into the river, and they made the river polluted enough that it was not useful. We now have, in that same stretch of river, over 200 point sources of discharge. But what we've done is we've regulated what can come out of a pipe. By regulating what's come out of a pipe, we now have a river that's so clean that these reintroductions are doing very well. But not only that, we have 10 times the number of users of the river, so the economics of the river have also expanded. So I think that's a great example of where environmental concerns actually support economic development, and the two things are working together. We've got cleaner water, we've got people who are coming to the area to fish now, and we have an environment that's better too. And so it worked to pull all that together, and I would hope that people would see that in many cases environmental regulations are beneficial at different levels. They're beneficial for the environment, sure, but hey, you know what? They're also really good for the economy of the region.
That's what sort of really excites me about both RiverLink and some of the other work that I've done, is that you can see people getting out of their cars, they're coming out of their homes, away from the computers and the devices, and whether it's attending a concert like we do to bring people down to the river, or doing a cleanup, or just going out and recreation on the water, or even riding a bike on the greenway. I think that's just really exciting. It's kind of powerful.
You know, tired, empty breeze coming from the mouth of a woman with the eyes I can never see. But I'm not gonna let it get to my head. I'm not gonna ever let her back in. I'm so tired of trying to make you feel good. Day after day, Mississippi. Oh, yeah, you're giving me everything you know that I ever need. Mississippi. Yeah, you're giving me everything, nothing I'd ever need. Giving me everything, nothing I need. You're giving me everything.